Hello friends, welcome to today's video. In this video, we are going to discuss the Python programming interview questions and answers. Okay, so if you know all of these questions, then probably you will be able to crack the interview. Okay, so I wish everyone all the best for your interview, as well as let's begin to start checking which are the questions and what are the important topics for interviews they are going to ask you. Okay, so before going on to the first question, please do subscribe to my channel so that you will be able to get the notifications if I post new videos. Okay, so now let's start our session with the first question. Okay, so now let's see what is the first question. So the first question is, what is lambda function? Give an example of when it's useful and when it's not. Okay, so a lambda function is a small anonymous function which returns an object. The object returned by lambda is usually assigned to a variable or used as a part of other bigger functions. Okay, it is defined by the keyword called lambda. The purpose of lambda is that it is much more readable than a full function since it can be written in line. Hence, it is a good practice to use lambdas when the function expression is small. Lambdas aren't useful when the expression exceeds a single line. Okay, so I hope this question and its answer was clear for you. Let's move on to the next question. What is Python path? It is an environmental variable which is used when a module is imported. Whenever a module is imported, Python path is also looked up to check for the presence of imported modules in various directories. The interpreter uses it to determine which module to load. So now let's move on to the next question. What is init? Init is a method or constructor in Python. This method is automatically called to allocate the memory when a new object or instance of a class is created. All the classes have init method. So if you haven't watched my video on classes and objects, then definitely I put the link on the I button. You can check that and please do watch that so that you will understand what is init. Okay, now let's move on to the next question. What are global and local variables in Python? Variables that are declared outside a function or in a global scope are called global variables. These variables can be accessed by any function in a program. But local variables means they are declared inside a function is known as a local variable. This variable is present in the local space and cannot be used outside the function. Got it? So now let's move on to the next question. How would you make a deep copy in Python? A deep copy refers to cloning an object. We use equal to operator. We are not cloning an object. Instead, we reference our variable to the same object. Okay, so now the method called deep copy is used to create a clone of an object. This module, okay, it is a built-in module called copy in Python, which gives us a deep copy function. Got it? So now let's move on to the next question. Explain Python functions. A function is a section of the program or a block of code that is written once and can be executed whenever required in the program. A function is a block of self-contained statements which has a variable name, parameters, lists, and body. Functions make programming more functional and modular to perform modular tasks. Python provides several built-in functions to complete tasks and also allows a user to create new functions as well. The built-in functions are copy, len, count are some of the built-in functions. User-defined functions. Functions which are defined by the user are known as the user-defined functions. Now let's move on to the next question. How is Python interpreted? Python language is an interpreted language. Python program runs directly from the source code. It converts this source code that is written by a programmer into an intermediate language, which is again translated into machine language that has to be executed. What is parse in Python? Parse means no operation Python statement, or in other words, it is a placeholder in compound statement where there should be a blank left and nothing has to be written there. In Python, what is slicing? A mechanism to select a range of items from the sequences such as list, tuple, strings, etc. is known as slicing. What is negative index in Python? Python sequences can be indexed in positive and negative numbers. For positive index, 0 is the first index and it goes on like 0, 1, 2, 3, etc., which is known as the forward indexing. But negative indexing means it starts from -1, -2, etc. Got it? It starts from the backward from the last value in your sequence, and then it starts from the index number -1. Let's move on to the next question. How do you generate random numbers in Python? So in Python there is a module called an inbuilt module called random. You can directly import the random to generate the random numbers in Python. Mention the 5 benefits of Python. Python comprises of huge standard libraries for most internet platforms like email, HTML, etc. Python does not require explicit memory management, as the interpreter itself allocates the memory to new variables and frees them automatically. Provides easy readability due to the use of square bracket. Easy to learn for beginners. Having the built-in data types saves programming time and effort from declaring variables. So these are the 5 benefits of Python. Now let's move on to the next question. Why is Python called a dynamically typed language? Typing means type checking in programming languages. Python is a strongly typed language, which means 1 plus 2. Here you can see that 1 is a string, okay, which will result in a type error since these languages do not allow type correction, implicit conversion of data types, okay. So they won't allow. So 1 plus 2, the result would be 12, okay. It won't be giving you 3, but instead it will be giving you 12. So there are 2 types of type checking. The one is the static one, that the data types are checked before the execution. The next one is the dynamic data types, which are checked during the execution. Python is known as an interpreted language as it executes each statement line by line, and thus type checking is done on the fly during execution. Hence, it is called as a dynamically typed Python language. how to check if all the characters in a string are alphanumeric? So here is a method called isAlNum, which always checks whether all the characters in a string are alphanumeric. Now let's move on to the next question. How will you find which directory you are currently in? So here is a module called OS, which helps you to do that, and the function name is getCwd, okay, which means you will get the current directory where you are working on, the path. Okay, let's move on to the next question. How can you reverse a list in Python? So here you can use your list name dot reverse method, okay, and if you want using the slicing method, you can use the double colon -1. Then also you will be able to reverse a list in Python. Got it? Let's move on to the next question. What is the use of break and continue statements in Python? Both break and continue statements are the control flow statements in Python loops. The break statement stops the current loop from executing further and transfers the control to the next block. Continue statements jumps to the next iteration of the loop without exhausting it. Got it? Now let's move on to the next question. How can you remove a duplicate element from a list? So here you can use a set of a list, okay? So just give set of and then your list name, okay? Because in a set, in the sequences you have studied sets, right? So set doesn't allow the duplicates of an element, so that's why we are converting it into a set. What are membership operators? With the membership operators in and not in, we can confirm if a value is a member in another. So here is an example, me in disappointment, it's true. Us in not in disappointment, that is also true. Here membership operators means it's in and not in, okay. Now let's see what is recursion. When a function makes a call to itself, it's termed as recursion. But then in order for it to avoid forming an infinite loop, we must have a base condition, okay. So inside the recursion means it is trying to call the function call inside that function itself. So that is basically known as a recursion. Let's move on to the next topic. What makes Python an object-oriented programming language? It has got so many object-oriented programming features. They are the encapsulation, abstraction, inheritance, polymorphism and data hiding, okay. I have done a complete video on all of these, so if you haven't watched each one, you can directly go to my playlist called Python and just watch these object oriented programming concepts, okay, so that you will get a clear idea on what these are. Got it? So now let's move on to the next question. What type of objects does Python support? These let you modify their contents. Examples of these are sets and dictionaries. Iterations on such objects are slower, okay. So what are immutable ones? These do not let us modify their contents. So here in mutable ones, lists, sets and dictionaries allow you to modify, but the tuple, string, integers, floats, booleans and complexes doesn't allow you to modify their contents, hence they are called as immutable objects. Let's see the next question. What is Python's parameter passing mechanism? Pass by value and pass by reference, okay. What is the difference between a list and a tuple in Python? List. The list is mutable, which means it can be changed, but tuple means it remains constant. In the list, the performance is slow, and in tuple, the performance is faster when compared. What do you understand by the term namespace in Python? A namespace in Python can be defined as a system that is designed to provide a unique name for every object in Python. There are so many types of namespaces that are present in Python. They are the local namespace, global namespace, and the built-in namespace. Let's move on to the next question. What happens when a function doesn't have a return statement? Is it valid? Yes, of course it is valid. The function will then return a none object. The end of a function is defined by a block of code is executed, not by an explicit keyword. What is a boolean in Python? Boolean is one of a built-in data types in Python. It mainly contains two values. One is true and the other one is false. Python bool is a method used to convert a value to a boolean value. The next question is explain the concept of constructor. Constructors are generally used for instantiating an object. The task of constructors is to initialize to the data members of the class when an object of the class is created. In Python, the init method is called the constructor and is always called when an object is created. What is self in Python? Self represents an instance of a class. So if you haven't watched my video on classes and objects, please do watch that so that you will have an idea about what are classes and objects and what is self in it and such parameters used for. Okay, I'll be giving the link in the I button. Okay, or please do go to my playlist called Python and you can watch those videos there. Now let's see what is inheritance. Inheritance enables a class to acquire all the members of another class. These members can be attributes, methods, or both. By providing reusability, inheritance makes it easier to create as well as maintain an application. The class which acquires is known as the child class or the derived class, and the one that is acquires from is known as a superclass or a base class or a parent class even. Now let's see the next question. List few string methods in Python. Find, which finds the first occurrence of a specific value, is alphanumeric, that returns true if all the characters are alphanumeric, meaning alphabet letters from A to Z and numbers from 0 to 9. Is alphanumeric, returns true if all the characters are alphabet. Is digit, returns true if all the characters are digits, otherwise false. Replace, method replaces a specified phrase with another specified phrase. Find, method finds the last occurrence of a specified value. Index, method finds the last occurrence of a specified value. Split, method splits a string into a list. Split lines, a method that splits a string into a list. The splitting is done at the line breaks. So these are some of the string methods in Python. What are args and KW-args, right? Args is used when the programmer is not sure about how many arguments are going to be passed to a function, or if the programmer is expecting a list or a tuple as an argument to the function. But KW-args is used when the dictionary is expected as an argument to the function. Let's move on to the next question. Name some standard Python errors. They are the type error, value error, name error, IO error, index error, and the key error. Type error occurs when the expected type does not match with the given value of a variable. Value error when an expected value is not given. If you are expecting 4 elements in a list and you give 2. Name error when trying to access a value. When trying to access a variable or a function that is not defined. IO error when trying to access a file that does not exist. Index error accessing an invalid index of a sequence will throw an index error. Key error when an invalid key is used to access a value in the dictionary. Let's move on to the next question. What is the purpose of id function in Python? Id is one of the built-in functions in Python. It accepts one parameter and returns a unique associated with the input object. What is the purpose of end in Python? Python prints a function always prints in a new line in the end. The end function helps us to get that in a single line. Okay. What is the use of global function in Python? The globals function in Python returns the current global simple table as a dictionary object. Python maintains a simple table to keep all necessary information about a program. This info includes the names of the variables, methods, and classes used by the program. All the information in this table remains in the global scope of the program, and the Python allows us to retrieve it using the globals method. What is regular expression? A regular expression in a programming language is a special text string used to describe a search pattern. It is extremely useful for extracting information from text such as code, files, logs, spreadsheets, and even documents. What does the function research do? Re.search. So re means it is a regular expression and search is a function inside that. Okay, this function will search for the regular expression pattern and return the first occurrence. And what does rematch do? It will check all the lines of the input string, and a search returns a match object when the pattern is found and null if the pattern is not found. What does re.match do? Is a function in the re in Python will search for the regular expression pattern and return the first occurrence. The Python rejects match method checks for a match only at the beginning of the string. If a match is found in the first line, it returns the match object. But if a match is found in some other line, the Python rejects match functions, returns null. Thank you for watching this video. If you like this video, please do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. See you in the next video with some other topics that are interesting for you and that are helpful for you. So if you have any comments about this video, please do let me know in my comment box. See you in the next video, guys. Bye.